many people want to be directors? How many people want to be producers? Okay, kind of scattering. How many people don't know why they're here? Well, what would you trade off? What are you willing to trade off to be successful at making films? Let's start with the easy one. How about your spouse? How many people would be willing to give up their significant other to make a successful film? Oscar. Okay, let's go. You get an Oscar, you trade off your significant other for an Oscar. Come on, be honest. Come on. Okay, how many people would be, I just want to ask you some, okay, how about kids? How many people are willing to give up their kids? How about this? How many people would be willing to make a film if it was sponsored by, you got all the money to do it from a tobacco company, and you get to make the film of your dreams with money from a tobacco company? How many people would do that? Oh, come on, guys. If you're not raising your hand, you're not going to make a film, all right? Let's try this again, because then you guys are dreamers. Okay, ready? How many people are going to make a film if it's financed by a tobacco company? There we go. How many people would make a film if it's financed by a gun company? Great. How many people would finance a film like my client you may have read about that was financed by Gaddafi? Natural selection. This is Maddie Beckerman, who went, Libya is now trying to get traction in credibility in Hollywood, so they're trying to get credit, and they're willing to buy it. And so my client's willing to be the gateway for them to bring it in. So you may have read Gaddafi was, a lot of Middle East money is coming to Hollywood. Image Nation, I did the Image Nation deal with, it's a $100 million deal with Hyde Park, and Al Noor is doing a film called about Muhammad, $150 million film on the life of Muhammad, although that's going to be interesting because you can't show Muhammad. So you'll see his perspective, from his eye. And Libya is coming into the U.S. in a very big way. You're going to see more from Gaddafi of financing films. So how about, all right, so how many people would, again, I just want to show of hands, how many people would take money from Gaddafi to make a film? How many people would take money from Al-Qaeda? Okay. You better be prepared to take money from wherever you get it, all right, to make a film if you're going to be serious. I got news for you, right? Don't give me I'm a creative, artistic something. This industry sold out years ago, and join it. Just get used to it. And you should be looking for money from any source because you're going to need it. It's just a difficult uphill battle to get, and you're going to have to do whatever you need to do to get there. I also want to warn you about: are you really for those of you who may not have suffered through the industry long enough. I mean, I have been here 30 years, so I want to warn you of a few things on the producer side. You really have to be able to get up in the morning and chew bricks for breakfast if you're going to produce films, all right? Because you have a choice. Two things are going to happen. People are going to stab, your friends are going to stab you in the back, steal your ideas, and steal your thoughts and vision, all right? Or you're going to do it to them. You have a choice. And it's dog eat dog, it's cutthroat, it's tough, it's not easy, and if you're a wussy, give up, all right? Because if you can't take being yelled at and screamed at and lied to and just horrendous, I mean, you've just got to be tough. And I just want to warn you of that. I got people who, I want to make a movie. Okay? It's like, you're going to get killed like in the first day. You're going to be breakfast for some agent, right? So I really do want to warn you. I want you to think long and hard about if you really want to be a producer. It is a tough job. I want to give you some thoughts about how to start, how to make it work, for people that haven't done anything before, how to get some traction out there, and just in the trenches, kind of the real life of making it happen. So, in no particular order, start small. Shorts, documentaries, advertisements. It's actually pretty easy. When people walk into my office and they say, I want to be a producer, I say, actually these days it's pretty easy. What you want to do is get a track record, get credibility, so do it. Just do it. Get a film camera and start shooting and do something. Come up with a vision, do it. And The easiest way these days, it's actually unbelievably easy, is there's a huge market for shorts out there. A lot of the telephone companies, the internet companies are looking for shorts. I've got clients that aggregate shorts, and you can get it financed by the advertisers. The advertisers, I'm going to tell you the kind of put a vignette for you. On this side of the room, we're going to put the advertisers. $300 billion industry per year. $300 billion industry per year. They're looking for eyeballs. And what's happened to them in the last, what's happened to them on television? Their big most advertising is TV. That's where the big bucks are spent. And what's happened in the last several years? Exactly. TiVo, DVR, they're getting zapped out. Okay, so they're getting knocked out of the content. So on this corner, we have the advertisers, 300 billion of cash, looking for eyeballs. On this side of the room, we've got you. We've got producers. We've got people that want to make films and dying for cash because of the economics of the industry, which I'll go through with you. But what do they have? They have eyeballs, because if they get their film made, they get people to watch it. Hey, what a concept. And so what's a marriage made in heaven, right? So if you're looking for financing, turn to the advertisers. They're all over this right now. They're dying to finance content. Red Bull, Coke, all the car companies, BMW, Ford, GM, all the liquor companies, and they'll finance you. You're looking, if you have any credibility at all, any story that will fit around their project, do a short, get it on YouTube, get it somewhere. And do it one of the short aggregators. Look for mobile. People are looking at now for mobile content, and go to the advertisers and get the advertisers to pay for it, and let them own it. Now, as you build up, I will tell you where the world is going in a very big way on this issue, which is going to be advertiser-owned content. And I'm going to tell you a story that will highlight the power of it and what's out there. I had these two clients come in, and they had read an article I'd written several years ago about this concept of using equity from advertisers to make films. And they had this idea for a soccer film. And they said, we've got this soccer film, and we want to do a trilogy. We want to do 3 of them. It's going to be expensive. It's $100 million. And they've never produced a film before. I'm wandering into my office. And so who could we get to be an advertiser for a soccer film? There we go. Shoe company. And in fact, we went to Adidas, or as I say in Europe, Adidas. Okay. And we said, tell you what we're going to do. We're going to put one of your teams in as the key soccer thing, and we're going to get Beckham to do a couple of walk-ons. Who's their Beckham? They sponsor Beckham. And the trilogy was called Goal. And Adidas stepped up and put 70% of a $100 million budget in to finance this film. Now, I can tell you, when you got 70% of the budget done with one advertiser, as equity, by the way, it wasn't done as product placement and the normal peanuts. It was equity. It was you own it. And then we got the film made. And spectacular. So these two guys who'd never made a film before made millions of dollars off their producer fees. Adidas got the film out. The first one was fantastic. It was a fantastic film. Anybody see Goal by any chance? Anybody? Okay. The first one was pretty good, right? But it clearly fell off after that. But the problem turned out was that soccer fans don't like watching soccer movies, and non-soccer fans don't like watching soccer movies. So the people about the 4 people here were about the only people that saw it. So it didn't do that well commercially, but hey, we got it made, and my client made a whole lot of money, from the producer fees. So I'll tell you right now, if day one you want to get some traction, I want to also tell you about the reality of the film industry, and I want to tell you about the economics of it, and something you really need to know, because you need to feel this one in your bones if you're going to live in this industry. And that is the following. Lesson 1. Most films lose money. All right? I need you to feel that in your bones. So repeat after me. Most films, and you got to know that, and you got to feel it, and you got to believe it, because it's the truth. And how do you survive in an industry where most films lose money? Okay? Do you ever put your own money into a film? Good. Okay, you passed that test. Okay, that was a pop quiz, and we're going to move on. So why do you think most films lose money? Why do you think that is? What'd you say? Much production. Okay, and I'm going to tell you why. Why is there way too much production? I'll tell you why. There's way too much production because you guys are sitting in this class at a Saturday on a 10:30 to make films, and you're not sitting in here learning about how to make doorknobs or doors or something else. And I'm going to tell you why you're in here and you're not learning about doorknobs and whatever. And the answer is sex. Right? Film industry's sexy. I got news for you guys. Film industry is like, woohoo, partying, okay? And you got to understand, what you're selling is sex. I can't count. I just wrote I'm a columnist for the Hollywood Reporter, and I just wrote an article on the fundamental economics, and I couldn't count the number of billions that I've watched be lost in Hollywood, and in particular the number of billionaires that come and they make billions of dollars in the internet or cars or real estate, and they come to Hollywood to blow it all right? And we love these guys, okay? Yes, okay? And you can't, no one makes billions in Hollywood and then goes and blows it on real estate and internet. That happened, all right? Now, what's driving it is sex, and you go to Cannes. I go to Cannes frequently, and there it's just in your face. I mean, it's, people bring 2 women, and it's just a big party. But even aside from the obvious, the obvious, it's the Freudian essence of it's sexy and people, it's just the whole Freudian thing. You want to go to a party. So if you're playing, know your audience. Know your audience. You're not pitching the economics of this industry. You go, like, if you look at the hedge funds that put billions and billions of dollars into Hollywood in the last 5 years, okay, before the last wave crashed. Here were guys in New York that had a choice. They had a choice of going to Philadelphia and looking at low-income housing, or they could come to Hollywood and go to a party and go on the red carpet. Which do you think they're going to do? Okay, hey, for $1 billion, I'll let you walk the red carpet. Okay. Know what you're pitching. You're pitching fantasy and dreams and fun. All right. You're not pitching economics and projections and pieces of paper. That's not why people are in this industry, and that's not how you're going to get the financing for it. So if you're out, let me give you a choice, just as an A/B choice. You're going to try to raise money for your film. Do you pitch the projections and come up with lots of numbers and show them how it's going to be just like Blair Witch Project because of the economics? Or do you pitch a color glossy picture with naked women on the front or something? Which one, A or B? Okay, you're pitching the glamour, right? That's what you should be pitching. I see people go out all the time with these projections, and people don't care. The truth is, A, people don't care about projections. That's the truth. That's not why they're investing. They know it's lies. And B, all that's going to happen is you're going to get me as an expert witness on the stand against you saying, what were you doing? All right? The average film in the industry loses money. It's not, and because of this law of supply and demand. So what happens is, because it's so sexy, there's so much production, and how many films are produced every year? Anybody know, or just around a rough average? 600 to 700. 600 to 700 are made each year. This is theatrical films, or attempted theatrical films. And how many get released? About 200 worldwide. No, I'm sorry, strike that, strike that. We're doing English language, okay, because I can't, Bollywood alone is like way more than that. Okay, but English language. So what do the rest do? So you've got 400 to 500 films out there that run around the festival circuit pretending that they're trying to like, oh, look at me, I've got a, you know, I got nominated for an award at the Zimbabwe Film Festival. You know, it's like, come on, man. Okay. And that's what happens. It's overproduction, all right? Law of supply and demand, Adam Smith, you know, Wealth of Nations, take it from there. You got just, this is the way the world works. This is why most films lose money. There's just way too much overproduction. And so now if you look at the battle lines between production and distribution, right? You go into a party and you're trying to impress the opposite sex and you're saying, hey, baby, I make movies, right? How would you, let's do the following. I make movies or I make doors. Which would you rather say? Right, so that now we have overproduction. Now how about this? I go to a party and I go, hey, I'm a distributor or I'm a producer. Which would you rather say? Producer, all right, because now I can get you in my movie, baby, okay? Distributor, like, so who has power? Who has power then when it comes to the law of supply and demand? Distributors have power. Distributors can just shove it down your throat, okay? I mean, this is the big joke. You go up to a distributor, you make your film for, like, you go make your film, spend whatever you make, and then I go to a distributor, and good luck, like on a happy day, oh my God, on a happy day you got your money back. Oh, great, all right, let's compare that to the rest of the world. You make real estate on a spec, you spend $10 million on real estate, you're expecting to like double it, all right? You want to, if you're on spec, you took the risk, you think, yeah, and you might do it. Maybe 150% in our industry. The truth is, if you made a film at 10 million, you're happy to get 5, and you're happy to get some phantom net profits that you'll never get, okay? All right, you got a piece of paper that said net profits, which means nothing, because the distributors have all the clout. They have power, and you should know this. This is the law of supply and demand. This is why, all right? And I can, if you look at, I'm gonna walk you down memory lane for a bit just to really drive this home. But the power, the studios have power because of two things. One, they control distribution, and producers don't. And second is they have the capital base to sit at the table to keep betting long enough until they get the blockbuster, and one blockbuster can make up for a lot of dogs. And that's the truth. And independents don't have that capital base, so the independents get wiped out because they just can't sit at the table. And so with that, I just want to walk you, just because people say, no, Sky, you're overstating it, you know, it can't be. I just want to walk you down memory lane and of my storied career, and going back to the early 80s, and see if anybody of you are as old as I am and can remember this. So what companies were out there in the early 80s? Anybody remember? Canon, there we go. So we're going to do the publicly traded independent companies. Canon, Orion, Carolco, and Dino De Laurentiis Group. I represented most of those. I represented Canon and Carolco, and we raised about $1 billion from the public market, and guess what happened to every single company we just named? Bankrupt. Orion, DEJ, Canon, Carolco. By the way, Carolco was the producer of the franchises Terminator and Rambo. If they went bankrupt, what the heck do you think is the chance for everyone else? They went, all right, Terminator and Rambo. So what happened? Boom. All of it got lost. About $1 billion. We raised it in the US public market and washed it completely out. Every single company went bankrupt. Next came the foreign banks came into Hollywood, Mies Pearson and Credit Lyonnais in particular. And Credit Lyonnais, I was representing them at the height of that market. And at the height of it, we bought MGM on behalf of a gentleman named Peretti. I don't know if anyone remembers this story. It was a great scandal. And we bought MGM for $1.25 billion. And anybody know what happened to that? Went bankrupt, insolvent, got sold, got bought out had to sold back to Krikorian, and we lost it all. Credit Lyonnais ended up in insolvency, lost the $1 billion that it had put into MGM. By the way, you're going to see this story coming up again, right? This is hilarious. How many times can MGM go bankrupt? Then came, so that was another, then came the Japanese. And if you remember, at the height of the market, Matsushita bought Universal, and Sony bought Columbia at the time, Columbia TriStar. And they came in and they poured billions and billions in, and they lost about $4 billion, okay, in total. Matsushita gave up and ran for the hills and sold to Seagram. Sony hung in there but lost billions, but total they lost was about $4 billion altogether. And I actually had Japanese clients and learned Japanese as part of this process. Hajimemashita, doji yoroshiku ohayo gozaimasu. Okay. Then came, what came next? Then came insurance-backed financing. And the insurance companies got into the game, and they thought, hey, there's a lot of money here. I'm going to make, and they started getting premiums of 10% of the amount insured. And they thought, oh my God, this is pig heaven. I mean, to an insurance company, getting 0.01% is like what they normally get. And so all of a sudden, they were getting 10% of amount insured, and they were, oh my God, this is, so they were guaranteeing the debt that was financing films. Anybody knows what happened to them? $3.5 billion later, $3.5 billion in a massive lawsuit they lost. They tried to, AXA and the others, all the film they insured lost money. $3.5 billion. Okay. Then what came next? Then came the German public market. And all these public companies in Germany, Senator, Helcon, Intermedia, Kirsch, all of them, and I represented a handful of them, Helcon, Senator, a couple of others. Thank God they all spoke English, so I didn't have to learn German. and anybody take a wild guess what happened to every single, come on, take a guess. Also, every single one went bankrupt. Okay, they all went bankrupt, and that was just a huge party, and that was about, I don't know, $3 billion, all lost, okay? And then crashed and burned, literally. So every single one went bankrupt. It was just spectacular. And this was in the, I believe we're up to the late 90s now. Then came, what came next? German tax shelter funds, okay, came next. And obviously they have way too much money in Germany, or they did, okay, till we cured them. And German tax shelter funds put in about $2 billion, and they were all of it was lost. And Germany, they were taking so much money out of German tax coffers that Germany had to finally shut it down by putting the head of the biggest fund, Andreas Schmidt from VIP, put him in jail. Said, we got to stop this. Okay, so they put him in jail, but before that party was over, they'd lost about $2 billion. And that brings us up into the 2000s, and then who knows what the next wave, the big wave, was after that. This is the wave in the early 2000s. We'll put it from 2002 to 2007. Not Middle East, the big wave. This is huge. Hedge funds, all the private equity funds from New York funded $13 billion into Hollywood. Okay, now that's with the debt. That includes the debt piece. But they were putting, the equity was about $5 billion, balance was debt, and they funded all these huge slate deals. And we'll put that up at about, we'll put it at $5 billion. Now, almost all of that was lost. Two of the funds worked because of special relationships with the studios, Legendary and Dune, but they had special relationships where they kind of got to cherry pick. The other ones got hammered. And they're holding out. They're trying to pretend that this hasn't happened, that it's not as bad as it looks, and maybe we can project out ultimates. You see, ultimately, we're going to get money on laser wristwatch video, in 5 years. So it's not as bad as it looks, okay? But the truth is, it got hammered. And so that brought us up to like 2008, and that's when they got crushed. And then what came? And then what's happening now? What's the next one up? I can tell you because I'm doing it, which is money from India, okay? Foreign money, and this is, and it's not just India, Middle East, but we'll say Image Nation, we'll say Middle East and India, and the big one was Reliance's investment in DreamWorks, And that happened at the end of, in the middle of 2009. And I did that. I represent Reliance. And I represent half of India, actually, that's coming into the U.S. Ready? Here's a fun question for you. What's the biggest English-speaking country in the world? India. What is the biggest entertainment industry in the world? India. Okay? India has the most films, most people watching the films, has the biggest English-speaking population in the world, money to burn, and they're coming into Hollywood in a big way, right? They're coming into Hollywood in a very big way. And it's to create a world platform for their not just their films at all. It's a worldwide publishing media company is their vision. It's also to say, hey, we can play on a worldwide stage. It's why they bought Jaguar. It's why they're doing DreamWorks. It's because we can. All right, because we can. And so now we'll run out of board and run out of money, so we'll come down here. So here's India coming. Now let's hope. Let's hope. Okay. Yes, it's different this time. Okay. And only God, we'll hope. But that's where we are right now. And this is Image Nation, this is Al Noor, this is UTV, this is Reliance, this is a lot of companies. This is Gaddafi. This is so we'll put Middle East and India. That's where we are right now. All right. Looking for money right now. It's foreign, and thank God, thank the money gods. I represent most of them. Certi from the Netherlands, which is a huge hedge fund from the Netherlands that owns Endemol, has been on a buying spree, and they bought Newmarket, they bought Spitfire, they bought Hammer, so they've been investing money. You've got Reliance, which has been funding all what they call the silo deals in town with all the big players, Brad Pitt, George Clooney, Julia Roberts. We've been doing all these deals where they're funding the development. The DreamWorks deal, Image Nation, Hyde Park. So that's where we stand right now. And let's hope it works. And so, ready? What is the second largest English-speaking country in the world, this time just behind the United States? China. China, because of Hong Kong, all right? What has the second biggest entertainment industry in the world? China. China does. What country could buy all of Hollywood for a fraction of the U.S. debt by just by just cashing in a bit of their debt and could buy all of Hollywood? China. China's next. I'm telling you, China is next. And so I hired a Chinese lawyer because I'm giving up on that language, man. And I went to China in December and I did the rounds and I paid homage and went to all the big companies, and I can tell you that they're next. There's no question about it. And I'm trying to talk them into buying a studio. And mark my word, within the next 2 years, I will represent a Chinese company buying a U.S. studio. And it will be a serious acquisition, and I can tell you why. And the pitch, by the way, the pitch to the Chinese, it's not about money either. It has nothing to do with money. In China, the pitch is, get your message out to the world. And that's what they want to do. When they're coming into Hollywood, it is not about money. It is about getting the message of China out to the world. They want to do another film about 2012 that portrays China as saving the world. They love that, all right? And they want to do that like times 10. and it's about bringing Hollywood to China. It's about bringing our expertise and creativity to the Chinese, and letting teaching them how to do production. So I can guarantee you this is the next wave. And if you're looking for it, again, you've got to think ahead in this industry. As you can see, waves crash, and you've just got to be braced for the next one. And so the next one, I think, is going to be China. And then simultaneous with that, or coming up right behind it, is going to be money from advertisers. And it's going to be a huge wave for advertisers. It's coming now. You can see a lot of the advertisers Hasbro has set up an entertainment division. Some of the car companies have set up entertainment divisions. They are doing direct to DVD. Red Bull is funding everything in the world for documentary specials, etc. Has its own, has a ski team, hang gliding team that they film. They're going to do a big theatrical film. It's just a matter of time when they do it. Hasbro, Mattel, it will do a Barbie. that's coming. And so again, this is what you've got to think about. What's the next wave, and that where you should be thinking about? Absolutely advertisers, because that's going to be an enormous wave. And so I would, if I was drawing it out and I was going to predict what's coming, that's where I would go. You guys need to be expert on financing and the business side of the industry. It is not enough to just go write a script and have great creative ideas. The true creativity in this industry is cobbling together the financing. That's the creativity it takes. You want to make a film these days, that's what it takes. So this is what you should get. Okay, this is part of the product placement program. Okay, remember, because we are going to our advertisers, so here's our advertisement. You guys should get my book, The Biz. It's if you don't have it, you should get it. It's a couple of bucks. Look, it makes lunch money for me for the year, so who cares? But for you, it really is a good way to get an overview of the film industry and how it works, and understand financing and completion bonds and loans and security interest, just so you can, if nothing else, talk to your lawyer, okay? And you really, this is what you need to follow more than anything else. You need to understand economics. You need to understand how deals work. And I'm going to go through today just basic things so that you get it, and so that you have some kind of basic understanding of how the deals work, but just as a footnote. Let's talk about now the implications of the industry, of the fundamental economics. And I'm going to ask you, this is another pop quiz. Okay, you passed the first part. Do you ever put your own money into films? Never. Okay, you're now next question. You're reading projections. Somebody has sent you projections of, and this always kills me because it always does this. I haven't seen a proposal yet that doesn't look like something like this. Timeline, and this is our film. We're going to make all kind of money, and it goes like this. Okay. Do you ever, question, when you're looking at that and you want to know the reality, do you ever accept that? Do you ever believe that? No. Here's what you do. You turn it upside down, okay? Okay? Right. That's the truth. If you ever want to see these projections, so you always take those with a grain of salt. How about this one? Hey, we're going to make so much money that let's set up a big international tax plan to save all the taxes we're going to make on all our profits. Do we do that? I'll tell you why. Because if you set up particularly a foreign tax plan to shelter profits, what's going to happen is you're going to shelter all your losses, and you're not going to be able to deduct them in the U.S. And so what you should be doing when you set up your structures is thinking very carefully, how are we going to be able to deduct our losses? We should use an LLC. We should use a partnership that has pass-through characteristics so that my investors, so I can tell them, if, of course, this won't happen to you, but if there's a loss, you'll be able to deduct it, okay? Because that will matter, all right? And so that's what you should be thinking about when you do these plans. How about this? I love this one. I'm going to give you a plan A and B. Plan A is you're going to make your film raising your own financing, and you're going to roll the dice and not do distribution in advance, because what you're going to do is wait until the film is done, you see, and then you're going to get a great deal and get a huge back end, and you're going to get massive profits on the back end, all right? You're giggling. No giggling, okay? That's plan A. Plan B is you sell the film in advance, you go to the distributors, and before you make your film, you pre-sell it, and you get them to cover the cost, and you get a few bucks in the budget for yourself, but you get a fantasy back in that you know you'll never get. You accept that because it's such a bad deal. The distribution fees are so hard, and you've given up your back end. That's plan B. Which do you guys vote for, plan A? If you vote for plan A, as so many of my clients have done, you will be wiped out. You will end up with a film that nobody will pick up and nobody will want to look at, and you will just wander the festival circuit, you know, and I've seen this with $100 million films. I have had clients that have made $100 million films and have not gone to distributors in advance because their theory was they're going to make so much money on the back end and get such a great deal, right? And then when the time came and the film was done, nobody would pick it up, period. not for nothing, all right? And they just went completely hungry. Now, and then, you know, I always hear, without quite, you always get, oh, well, my comparables, I'm going to be like Blair Witch and Paranormal Activity, and I'm going to be just like Hangover. You know, there's always the exceptions, and I grant that. This is a wild industry with, you know, wildcat oil drilling, and I get that. But please, bank on the odds, and the odds are you're in deep trouble. Pre-sell. Pre-sell, pre-sell, pre-sell. Cover your losses, cover your costs up front. Do whatever you need to do. Get a few bucks in the budget for yourself, and get on. Get on with life, all right? But don't do this, I'm going to make so much money on the back end. Horrible. I've seen so many people do that. Here's another one. Do you think if you were in the fraud industry, if you were looking to steal and rob people that were desperate for money, what industry might you go to? Okay? You have no idea. You have no idea. So I get this call the other day. I get this call 2 weeks ago on a Monday from this accountant. He goes, Sky, oh man, we're going to make so much money. I've got this great client for you. He's and we need your help to sort out, you know, the planning, because he's going to get $160 million. And I thought, he's going to get $160 million. And he said, yeah, he's going to get it Tuesday. This is like Monday. I said, oh wow, how's he doing that? Oh yeah, he's got these people from the Middle East, and he all he had to do was buy a insurance policy to cover the bond, and it was $250,000, and it was everything he owned, and he had to cash out his pension plan to do this, and he actually did. He took out everything he owned. He cashed out his pension plan to buy the $250,000 insurance bond. All right, and I said, dude, you don't need me. You need a litigator, because this guy's just lost his money. I can tell you, this is so common, and I hear this so often. And I cannot believe, but I'm telling you, they're preying on you. Anybody who asks for money up front and promises you more money down the road, don't do it. I have seen it go for as cheap as $400 up front to $2 million. I've seen it go all the way from $400 to $2 million, and the promises go all the way from thousands of dollars to millions and millions of dollars. Don't do it. If someone promises you money and asks for money up front, all you have to do is say, double it, double what you want, and I'll pay you on close. I'll pay you when we close. All right? You want $1 million, I'll give you $2 million. You want whatever it is, I'll double it, but I'm paying you on closing. And watch them disappear. All right? And watch them disappear. Please, I don't want to read about you guys in the trades. I don't want to read about you in the litigation report where someone has suckered you. And if not, and I'm trying to get the message out, and it just kills me, man, when I hear these stories, and it's so common. The fraudsters prey on this industry because they know that most films lose money, and they know producers need it. All right, so they know you're desperate, and so they know you'll do anything. Second thing that you have to look out for is, and it's just a weird function of the industry, is not even, and there's more of these ones than there are of there's schemers and there's dreamers, and there's more dreamers than there are schemers. And the dreamers actually think that they're going to get you all this money. Sometimes they're linked back, that you don't know it, but they're linked back to dreamers or schemers somewhere down the line. But they really believe that they can raise you all this money, and they'll waste your time forever, all right, as you chase them looking for cash. And you can usually spot them because, oddly, usually they have big eyes. I don't know, they stand in my office, they always have these big eyes of, I've got all this money. Okay. And all you have to do is say to them, what have you closed? Give me a reference. Prove you've got the cash. Give me a bank statement. And you've got to ask the tough questions. And when and if they get all huffy on you, which happens now and then, that just tells you that they're full of it. It just tells you, this is private, confidential, proprietary something, okay? Then they're full of it. And usually they have some weird theory of, you pay somebody something and something happens. It's like the old game of mousetrap, and it's just always BS. So, and don't waste your time. And I've had some clients actually go to the dark side. They get so wrapped up with these dreamers, they become dreamers, and they fantasize they're going to raise all this money. Your time is money. You're chasing one of these dreamers. You're wasting time getting your film done. You've wasted a month, 2 months, 3 months. Don't do it, all right? Don't ever, 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 ever go out starting production relying on a dreamer or schemer to come up with the money. I've had clients make commitments, pay or play commitments, start production, actually roll the cameras thinking that the financing was coming from one of these clowns. Please, oh my God, don't do it. Don't do a press release. Don't make commitments. Don't go out on a limb. Don't start shooting until you've really locked down the cash and that it's actually there, right? Again, it's just a function of this industry. It's so prevalent, and it's so and it's so sad. Here's some words to look out for. If you ever hear these, you know you're in trouble. By the way, you know you're dealing with a schemer. If you ever hear the following: escrow, foreign, trust, letter of credit. Commercial paper, so words like that, and when the moment you start hearing things like that, when I asked this guy, it was insurance. He was buying a insurance bond to guarantee a letter of credit from Europe, and I was like, oh my God, okay. There was all the words combined were there, and I knew you're in for trouble. Okay. Now, let's talk about what is out there, right? Where is real money, and where should you be looking? One, let's do funny money. Okay, call it funny money. Funny money is money that falls down from heaven, and usually it's mom and dad. Okay, fine, mom and dad, friends. Okay. They may be ex-friends by the time this is over, but heck, they're friends. Or rich people that really want to get into the industry and think it's grand fun and are more than willing to blow a few bucks, and no harm, no foul. And they're all out there. By the way, they're all over the place. And it's surprising how many. That's who you should. If you're looking for equity to get going, find some rich person who can blow a few bucks and pitch the sexiness of the industry. Give them a credit. Give them a walk-in part. Give them a something. They love that stuff. Invite them to the party premiere. The biggest negotiation I had with one that was financing a film recently was that their girlfriend had to have a walk-in speaking part. It's like, okay, for $10 million, I guarantee you we can get your girlfriend a walk-in speaking part. The only problem, the oddity, as you'll appreciate, which was that it had to be guaranteed, which meant that girl became an essential element, which meant that we had to get medical insurance and a completion bond for her, and which increased the cost of the film. But what the heck, he was paying for it, so fine. So they're out there, okay? Funny money. That's number one. Number two. And here's the big one, distributors. Go to distributors and you pre-sell your film, you pre-sell your idea, go to the Cannes film market, go down to Lowe's Hotel in October. It's called the American Film Market. And what you do is you go to the distributors, best if you can get a sales agent to do this for you so that you've got some more credibility, and you take your idea and you package it, and you've got to get somebody attached. You've got to get some talent, somebody with a name, all right, attached somehow as our director, talent, cast, somebody that you can wave around as a name, because that becomes really important. You get a sales agent on board with you who then walks it around to the distributors and says, please pre-buy my film and make a commitment to pay me X dollars on delivery. And this is the classic way that films have been financed for 40 years. And the distributor gives you a commitment to pay X dollars for Germany or Japan or all of Europe. And you take these contracts and you gather them up, all right, and you then walk down to a bank and you go to the bank and you say, dear bank, please loan me the money against these contracts so that I can make my film. And The bank will always say, fine, I'm willing to do that as long as I get a completion bond. As long as you then get me some completion bond company to say that your film will in fact be delivered on time and so that the distributors will make those payments. This is the bread and butter of film financing. You should understand this in and out. This is discussed in detail in my book, and this is the way most films get made, and it's the way the world works, all right? So in the old days, you were actually able to finance 100% of your film this way. It's now become, the market has depressed significantly, so that right now, if you had, I'll do a $10 million film. We'll start down here. $10 million film. These, in the old days, you could finance the whole film with these pre-sales. And actually, in Carolco's days, we were funding 120% of the film. We were able to raise more money and sell it for more right up front than we actually made the film for. These days, unfortunately, the U.S. market has collapsed. Foreign markets have collapsed. Japan isn't buying. And right now, we're right at about, on a happy day, 70% of your budget you can cover with pre-sales. And that so you wander around to the markets and you sell your film, and people will give you, in a happy day, 70% of your budget they'll buy. And at any given time, by the way the world works, and you should understand this as well, is a territory sells for a percentage of the budget. And I call this the budget sales corollary. So if you're a German distributor, you kind of need to understand this too, is you're looking at two films. And you're looking at one film that's kind of a comedy, horror, drama, and another film that's a special effects, something. And you fundamentally don't know which is better, or this cast is different than that one. And that's just the uncertainty. You really don't know. So but the one thing you do know is what's the budget. You know how much this thing is going to cost. And that hopefully will result in what that film is worth. And that's what people buy. You buy as a percentage of the budget, and at any given time, I can tell you what a given territory will go for. So, for example, right now, Germany would go for, on a happy day, about 9% of the budget. UK would go for about 7%. Italy, about 6%. Spain, about 5%. Japan, about 5%. Used to be 10%. And so I can tell you what the percentage is of the budget, and I can add them up and tell you where you're going to get to, almost without exception, okay? Because that's just how, again, this is how the world works. So now you've raised your 70% of your budget with pre-sales and banking, and your challenge is this piece right up here, and who knows what that is called? That is called the gap. That's the gap. And on every film, there's a gap. And this is your challenge of film financing. The real challenge is filling that gap. How do you do this 30%? And so that's the big challenge. So let's talk about different ways to do that. Who knows what's the biggest one by far these days, hands down for the last several years in the United States? Tax incentives. State tax incentives, hands down. And it's just, you should, this is like, again, manna from heaven. You should be all over this. This is the biggest source of film financing for the gap right now, and that is almost every state in the union, New Mexico, Louisiana, Georgia, New York, has these incentives that if you shoot there, they give you a percentage of your budget, and the way it works is a percentage of costs that you incur in that state. And the states have different calculations of how that works, but the net result is that you should be able to get all the way from 10% to about 25% of your budget from shooting in a particular state, and that is serious money, and you can bank it. All right, there are companies that will loan you money against it even before the state comes in, and the key is that the credit has to be transferable. You have to be able to sell it. If it's just a credit against your taxes in that state, or it's a rebate, you're going to be sitting. It's hard to bank a rebate, and you're going to be sitting around for a while. What you want to be able to do is go to a state that's got an assignable credit, like Louisiana. This is why Louisiana is so popular. And then you can bank it, and then you can sell it, and then you can monetize, and get the cash. And again, 10 to 25%. So in some cases, you almost cover your whole gap with these state tax credits. They're fantastic. It's insane. I will tell you this, as a state policy thing, they are just totally bankrupting the states. That's what we're doing. And it's the concept, to me, the concept of our states competing against each other for business and giving away tax subsidies is so beyond insane, when the U.S. should be competing on a national level against the rest of the world. And it's truly, separate issue as a policy issue. This whole thing is insane, but it works to your advantage. So state tax credits, big time, do it. Second, foreign tax shelters. Okay, foreign tax shelters are still out there. They're alive and well, and they work on what's called a sale-leaseback model. Short answer, short version of it, ready. You sign a bunch of papers, the rights go in a circle, they end up back in your lap, and someone hands you about 10% of the budget. So a good foreign tax deal, normal foreign tax deal, can get you 10% of the budget, and in some cases you don't even have to shoot there, like Germany. Okay? Germany has a weird tax system that has an anomaly built into it that allows tax shelters for films, even if they're not shot there. Germany has clamped down on them significantly. They can no longer be public deals, but you can do private deals in Germany, and you can in particular roll over prior existing deals into new films. And so without shooting in Germany, you can raise 10% of the budget. 10% of the budget by doing a sale leaseback. Next thing to think about is, if you can make your film in Europe, you can make it as what's called a European work. And in Europe, they have a quota requirement on the broadcasters that requires them to reserve 50% of their broadcast time for European works. So if you show up to the Cannes Film Festival and you're selling your film to a German, French, UK, Italian distributor, and you've got two films, one is a European work and one is not, which one do you think sells for more? Okay, by far, all right? And the buyers, when you're selling, and this is things people don't often understand, a theatrical film is in fact you're selling it to TV, particularly in the European market. In worldwide, the buyers are TV companies out there, guys. The buyers are not theatrical companies. They view theatrical as kind of an annoyance and a kind of a platform for fun, but they're going for TV and they're going for video. It's not a theatrical play. So by the way, when the ad revenues dove last 2 years, I knew instantly, and I wrote an article that said this 2 years ago, your theatrical revenues were going to go sales of theatrical films were going to go way down because the buyers were TV companies and they were getting hammered on the advertising. So always, your market is the advertisers. I mean, you got to understand this when you go into it. So European works, because the buyers are the TV companies, it will drive up your price sometimes two times what you would otherwise have got. So again, you can fill the gap by raising the sale prices that they would pay if you can make this as a European work. You have to be careful about, in Europe, you don't want it to turn into Euro pudding, is what they call it. If it gets too mushed up with a French, German, English co-production and nobody can understand it, and it turns into, Sir Prancelot. Okay, that won't work. But so you got to look out for that side. Okay. Next thought, I want to give you just the two most overlooked issues for producers. Okay, the two things people overlook the most. Ready? Number one. You'll be surprised at this one. Music. Every one of you guys has a little line item in your budget, and it's like $25,000, and it says music. Bzzz. Music makes the film or breaks the film. Go watch a lousy TV program, and it's always lousy music that's blowing it. You've got to plan for the music, and you've got to budget for it. Good music is at least $250,000 on any film. It's going to be $250,000, and on any bigger film, it's going to be $2 million, and up. All right, but you should think music before almost you think visuals, and it's producers overlook this and wait till the last minute and then get some lousy track, and then your film is dead. Second thing that most producers overlook is they overlook they are stunned at the cost, at the amount of capital required during pre-production. prior to the time that the cameras actually roll. And most producers do not budget for this or understand it. They always, in their minds, think, I will get the capital when I start shooting, and life is beautiful, and that's when I need the money. Bzzz, okay? The way it will work is bank loans and almost all financing almost always comes in on commencement of principal photography. That's when the money comes in. But before that, all right, you have got to make commitments to talent. You've got to pay location scouts. You've got to put deposits down on equipment. You've got to do lots of things, and it's a lot of money. And you've got to plan for this. And the only way to deal with this is equity. You've got to have equity. You've got to have capital. And not, you know, don't be surprised, and then all of a sudden you just can't, you know, you call up an agent, yes, you get somebody interested, and then they say, okay, it's pay or play, put down a commitment, and you go blah, 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 right? That doesn't do you any good. You're going to lose credibility. So be prepared. Get an equity source. Again, go to some rich person who's happy to play in the industry, give you some equity so that you can get there. Find a niche. Find a niche. Stop going for the Oscar. Okay? You want to know what the most popular DVD was? It was Carmen Electra showing housewives how to strip. That was the single biggest DVD seller of first couple of years. All right? I had clients that were making bazillions of dollars in the Christian animated market. I had clients making bazillions of dollars in the TNA market, right? Some clients doing both. Okay. Find a niche, right? I mean, don't just do, oh, I'm going to do my drama thing. Find it, you know, direct to DVD. These days, direct to mobile, direct video in demand. Absolutely. So you know, think off the beaten path. Most important lesson I can give to you, find a partner that has credibility and traction, and give them 50% of whatever your film is, and be happy if you get that. All right? You need somebody who, when they call an agent or when they call a lawyer, that name is recognizable and they will return their calls. If you just call up most agencies or whatever, they're going to hang up on you. You've got to have traction, and the only way to get traction is credibility. Do a couple of films with a partner, and then you can go off on your own. But and just be thrilled if you can find a partner. Anyone that's done something before, and the bigger the better. All right, the bigger the better. And that's the most important lesson I can tell you, is because doing it alone, it's going to kill you. You know, everyone's going to slam the door, you know, slam the phone, and you just won't get there. Next, you've got to learn about power, and you've got to learn about the chessboard, and you've got to learn about basic rules. You've got to worry about the default rules that apply if you say nothing. And the answer is there's all these default rules that apply. And I want to just do this a question for you, all right? Another pop quiz, and see what you think. I'm going to give you a fact pattern. You're the producer, and you're a writer, and I'm a producer. Okay, and you've written a fabulous script, and I'm going to make it a reality. And first of all, we're going to shake hands, and we're going to work as partners, okay? Because I love you. And we're let's do lunch, and we're going to forever and ever, okay? Because this is the Hollywood. And I'm going to go out now, and I'm going to go to CAA and ICM for the next 5 years. I'm going to work as a producer, and I'm going to make your script a reality, and I'm going to get talent attached, I'm going to get a director attached, and I'm going to get a studio on board, and oh my God, we're going to make it happen. It's going to be a $100 million film, and the first dollars come down, and this is always when the fights start. Someone puts $2 down on the table. And I've watched, by the way, long-term friendships dissolve over the $2. Because this is when the rubber meets the road. And someone just put $2 down on the table, and you and I are going to fight over it. Who wins? You guys all thought the producer wins. It's intellectual property. It's a copyright. To transfer copyright requires an agreement signed by the author. Did I get that? Nope. I'm toast. I'm out. Studio's going to push me off the board. She's going to get the $2. The studio will just say, jump in a lake. Talent will say, jump in a lake, because she's got the power. You guys should know this. Unless it's got it in writing, all right? I can't tell you how many producers wander into my office and crying and, tears streaming down their, I did for 5 years, I did all this stuff, and they didn't get it in writing, and they're getting pushed off the board. And I'm saying, what are you doing? Why didn't you get it in writing? Oh, I loved them and I trusted them. Okay, it's Hollywood, man. Okay, all right, it's Hollywood. And so you guys, moral of the story, ready? Own the material. Options work. Control the material. 2, get it in writing. Signed in blood. Okay? Own the material. Get it in writing. That's how you have control and power. Otherwise, you don't have it. And you should know basic rules like this. This is, and because you're playing in this very dangerous, sandbox where people are going to be out to kill you, and they will. And so you need to know that. Don't do stupid term sheets, letters of intent, and deal memos. Don't do it. If you've got something intelligent to say, put it in a real contract and make sure it's binding and it says what you need to say and that you're protected. Don't do these I love you kind of lunch thing, deal memo term sheets that are half-baked, half thought out, and are going to end up in litigation. All right, because that's all they're going to end up. And I'm an expert witness for a lot of the cases, and so and they're always, half the time they're oral agreements, right? Half the time they're oral, and the other half they're these stupid little term sheet things. So just don't do it. You've got something to say, make sure, and say it clearly. It can be short, okay? It doesn't have to be long. It can be a fairly short contract, but say it, and get it in writing. You should know what a standard producer deal is. Do you guys know what a standard producer deal is? All right, I'm now going to tell you what you should be asking for and what you should be aiming for, because this is how standard producer, you should know. This is where the world is going, what you should be asking for. Okay, you ready? Here's how the world works. You should be getting a fee in the budget, step 1. And it should be like 5% of the budget with maybe a floor and a cap. Maybe, it depends on your budget. Maybe, I don't know, floor of $50,000 and a cap of $250 if it's a small film. If a big film, it might be a cap of $2.5 million, $5 million. So, but normally it's 5% with a floor and a cap. You should ask for that. Normally you should get some fee up front. Development fee, $25,000, something to show people are serious. If you go to a studio and you're doing something, get some small development fee. And then you should know your back end. And your back end is typically, it's 50% of the net profits minus third-party participations. Right? That's the standard deal. And now, as you move up the food chain, you're going to ask for a percentage of gross, but let's first look at this. This is the standard deal. So normally what you say is, I as producer will get 50% of the net profits minus third-party participations, whatever you give away to directors, writers, other people will come out of my share. But then you usually get down to some floor, and there's 2 kind of floors. One's called a soft floor. So you say, maybe, all right, let's do an example. I'm 50%, but hey, you studio gave away 50% of the profits to third parties. How much does that leave me? Was that fair? No. So I'm going to ask for a soft floor at 20%. So you can wash me out to 20%, but after that, if you gave away more profits than that, it comes off the top, and we both bear it equally. So on that example, it would have, if the studio had given away 50% of the profits to third parties, I get washed down to 20, and then the remaining 20% of the net profits get split between them, studio, and me. So I eat 10% of it, So I get washed down from 20 down to 10%. And that's called a soft floor. If you've got, as you start getting clout, you're then going to ask for a hard floor. And a hard floor is 20% is it. Anything over that, you eat it, studio, and I get my 20%. All right? So, ready? Between a soft floor and a hard floor, what you always be asking for? Okay? Absolutely. You should know it. You should ask for it. And it should be at 20%. As you work up the food chain and you get more clout, you should be asking for a percentage of gross. Okay? You should be asking for a percentage of gross. And it'll start, usually, again, as you work, in the beginning, it may start at what's called cash break-even. And cash break-even is when they've recouped their actual cost of distribution and production with no distribution fee. And that's not uncommon. As you get more and more clout, your gross should move up to first dollar. All right? So you get a first dollar gross is a fabulous, fabulous place to be. And then they'll be paying you as a percentage right off the top. Next, by the way, let me ask you this one. If you are getting a percentage of gross, and that's all I tell you, how much video is going into that pot? 20%. You're supposed to know that. That's custom and practice in the industry. Gross, if that's all I say, video is going in at 20%. That's the way the industry works. Okay? If you have clout, then you should be asking to up that ante. And what you should be asking for is you have to write this and say it. Video is not on a royalty basis. Video is in at true 100% minus actual cost. But you have to say that. If you don't say that, the custom and practice in the industry is that video goes in at 20%, and that's the end of it. That comes from the guilds. This is what, by the way, all the strikes are always about. Is the guilds are always complaining that they agreed to that in 1970 when the argument was it was like merchandise, and they've been ever since then. The world's upside down. Video costs are way a fraction of what they were, and so they're always whining and crying about that. The video at 20% came in because the guilds got that deal in 1970 because the studios argued that video was like T-shirts and that they had costs of 80% to manufacture these cassettes. Ever since then, the numbers have completely reversed. It's now the complete opposite. Costs are now 20% and the profit is now 80%, but they're holding on to that 20% royalty that was done in the 70s. And this is, and they use that as the industry practice for paying participations to talent, even outside the guilds, to producers. And this is what the guilds are always striking. Whenever you see a strike, it's always about this issue. They always get really excited about this issue. I want to tell you where the world is going, because I think as producers you should know where the world is going on a macro level, and because it'll impact your business, and just a few things. Number one, we're going to have, probably in the next year or two, the windows are going to collapse. And that means we're going to have day and date release in all media. Video on demand, DVD, everything is going to, same day it goes out in the theater. That is going to have profound implications on your business and on your market. It's really going to turn the world upside down. Right now we have the theatrical window, and then 3 months, 4 months later we have the DVD window, and in between we have the piracy window. All right? Well, that ain't working, all right? I got news for you. When you ask, gee, I wonder why DVD sales are going down by the same percentage that piracy is going up? Gee, I wonder. Let's think about it. I wonder if there's a correlation. So what will happen when this happens, by the way, is that theaters are going to become like bowling alleys. They're still going to be around, but they're going to move to being in the low rent district, and they're not going to be 10 theaters in Westwood like there are now. They're going to move down to Pico next to the bowling alleys, and you're going to be watching films at home, and I'll tell you what's interesting about it is you're not, I don't think, going to be watching it on. You may be watching streaming. All right, video on demand works for streaming. And that's available right now. But I don't think that's the way you're going to be watching films. I think that you're going to want the flexibility of having it mobile, of being able to put it on a mobile device, on a laptop, on your TV, and have it with you. And I'm betting, and I've personally bet on this, that it's going to happen by a technology where you walk up to a kiosk like Redbox and you put in a USB 3.0 flash drive, and it downloads to your flash drive in 15 seconds. You hit rent or buy, and you pick your film. But by the way, this kiosk can have any film in the world because it's not limited by selection like Redbox, by what the physical inventory. And we can download to your USB 3.0, and you can put it in your pocket and have a library in your pocket that you can put on your mobile device, on your library, on your laptop, on your TV, on your DVD, and the technology is out there to do this. What else? The other things let's talk about is how about making this industry work? How about making it make money? You want to hear? I'm going to tell you my theory for the longer term economics of this industry to save the industry. And because again, most films, money, all right? So how do you make a business? By the way, the studios, all the power they have and everything, anybody know the average rate of return on investment to the studios for the last 20 years? Huge profits. Anyone know? 6% per year. 6% on invested capital. That's the studios with all the power and strength and the good side of the equation. All right, so that's just, this is just goofball. Here's what they need to do if you want to bring this industry around. One, and you guys should, when you guys are running studios, I want you to do this, okay? Because you're going to be running studios at some day. One, you are creating the talent. You are making them superstars. You should own them. You should own them. All right? Like MGM did back in the 50s. What are you doing making Twilight and making these stars now multi-million-dollar per movie stars, and you're not getting it, where they'd be nothing without you having created it? I'm sorry. Long-term contracts, you own them, like the MGM star did. That's number one. Number two is, you got to get off paying gross residuals to the guilds. All right? This is ridiculous. The guilds are now getting about 10% of gross receipts. And this is going to, like, truck drivers on Batman that have nothing to do with the film other than they're in the, IATSE. All right? It's ridiculous, and particularly the below-the-line crew. I'm sorry, I love guilds, yes, of course, but I'm sorry, paying 10% of gross receipts. No other industry in America does this. All right? Gross, when a film is losing money and they're getting a share, you got to get off that. Third, you got to shoot, you got to produce for cheap, you got to get the cost down to the revenues. Revenues have dropped significantly, costs have to drop significantly. Shoot outside the US. I had a client that went to Hungary because they could build Los Angeles cheaper in Hungary than it was to shoot in LA. I'm not kidding. Cheaper to build it, all right? Something's out of whack, all right? You got to get costs down. You got to get costs down. And you got to go day and date. You got to go day and date because you got to stop piracy and you got to start milking those ad dollars and where they have the most impact, so they're cross media, not theatrical. And then you got to start the machine up four months and again, to start again. Okay, and next couple of things I want to warn you about, because you guys, if you're out there doing this. First of all, what kind of entity should you be using almost all the time for any film endeavor you do? Very good, you know that, LLC. Next, whenever you are raising money from anybody, all right, for anything, what laws should you be worrying about? Both. You guys should know this. Securities laws. Anytime you're raising any money from anybody and they're expecting to get money back, that is a securities. And there's two reasons why you care about this. One is jail. All right? And I had a client that went without me to Florida and raised money and got his butt in trouble and ended up in jail because it's a violation of securities laws if you don't follow the securities laws. And the second is you become personally liable for repayment of the investment if you don't comply with the securities laws. Ready? Most film. You care about this issue? Good. Think about the securities laws when you're raising money. Okay? And that'll be the end for our show at 12 o'clock. Thank you very much for attending. Bye. Thank you.